Good morning, students. This is a new chapter. There is a protection of traditional knowledge. The initiative taken in India. So, previously, as you know, the traditional knowledge, and now it is all about the protection of that type of traditional knowledge. Now, as we taken the issue of protection of traditional knowledge, we have two different way. One is defensive, and second one is a positive protection. So, in case of defensive, this is the set of strategy to ensure that any third party do not gain any illegitimate or unfounded intellectual property rights over traditional knowledge. This is a defensive mechanism. Now, when you are talking about positive protection, positive protection is the acknowledging the control of the custodian, whoever may be the custodian. It may be a state, it may be a community. So, custodian over the traditional knowledge. So, acknowledging the control of the custodian over traditional knowledge. Now, second is that there is an ability to deny or ability to authorize the access and the usage of this type of knowledge. Now, third item when taking the positive protection, the third is to the prevention of misappropriation. This is a prior informed consent, as you know, including the condition of use. Okay, so informed consent, and side by side there is a condition for using that type of knowledge. So, that is the prevention actually of the misappropriation of any knowledge base or of any knowledge material. Okay. Now, benefit sharing, it is a mutually agreed terms. So, agreement may be done on a monetary basis as well as on non-monetary basis, but there is a sharing mutual agreement. Okay. So, this sharing is on mutually agreed terms and conditions basis of on that. Sometime it may be monetary or sometime it may be non-monetary. Okay. Now, the protection of traditional knowledge need to be interlinked with various spheres like GR or TCE. Okay. So, in case of India, as we come on the Indian initiative, so when you talk about the legislative, okay, so in case of legislative, first we have a National Biological Diversity Act. We have National Biological Diversity Act. We have Patent Act, which is a section 3P. And third, we have a protection of plant varieties, and also Farmers' Rights Act. We have another, that is Geographical Indication Act, that is also important. Geographical Indication Act, that is also an important thing. And last but not the least is the Scheduled Tribe and the other traditional forest dwellers. That is the recognition of the forest right. And we have a Traditional Forest Dweller Act, which is from 2006. So, this is a Scheduled Tribe and other Traditional Forest Dwellers Act 2006. This is basically the recognition of the right of the forest rights. Okay. So, this according to this type of legislative, you have a structure in the administrative basis to maintain this type of things. So we have a state level, that is TKII, which is a state maintained in the state level, and we have also community level databases. Community level databases is maintained through PBR, which is the PBR. So that is the community level databases. So state level, which is TKII, and a community level databases, this is PBR. Okay. Now, if we take the Biodiversity Act, biodiversity, what is the institutional setup of the Biodiversity Act? Now, firstly, we have NBA. NBA is the National Biodiversity Authority. So the NBA, National Biodiversity Authority. So this has the power to regulates the access of NBA can regulate the access by a foreigner or NRI, as you know, non-residential Indians, or body corporate having any foreign participations. Okay. So then prior permission is required. This is the thing, the prior permission is required by any entity seeking intellectual property rights. That is, any type of knowledge that is based on knowledge or resource which is obtained from India. So prior permission required by any entity who are seeking intellectual property right. Okay. So there is a needed of the permissions, and in state body, beyond the national, after national there is a state body, which is State Biodiversity Board, commonly known as SBB, which is the State Biodiversity Board. So State Biodiversity Board can regulate the access by Indian citizen or body corporate controlled by any Indian citizen. So firstly, national level of program is to regulate the access by a foreigner or NRI, and state level body is the regulate the access by any Indian citizen or any corporate which is controlled by any Indian citizen. Okay. So first one is the National Biodiversity Authority, and second is the State Biodiversity Board, so SBB. Okay. Now, besides these two things, NBA and SSB, we have a structure in the local level. There is a structure in the local level. So Biodiversity Management Committee, which is operated in the local level. So what are the works? The preparation of the People's Biodiversity Register, that is the important thing. The preparation of the People's Biodiversity Registers, which is PBR. We are commonly said in previous that PBR, that is People's Biodiversity Registers. And the second work is that they respond to any type of request which is come from NBA or SBB. Okay. So Biodiversity Management Committee, which is maintained at the local level, they have a prior work is the preparation of the People's Biodiversity Registers, is the primary works, and second is to the response to the request which is coming from the NBA or SBB. Okay. Now, People's Biodiversity Registers, come to the People's Biodiversity Registers, which is PBR. PBR actually it is implemented or prepared through BMCs. Okay, BMCs implemented or prepared through BMCs. Now, the statistics is that the latest number of 37,769 BMC established in the 26th out of the total state of India. It is now 26 out of total state in India. So it can cover a wide variety of the traditional knowledge, but it is also sure that it is not limited to any specific type of traditional medicine. Not that it is. It covers a wide variety of the traditional knowledge in any part. It may be within the ecological system, it may be with the technical, traditional technical knowledge, traditional ecological knowledge, or traditional economic knowledge, anything like that. Potentially, this act can play an important role. Once an effective effective national instrument, for protection of traditional knowledge comes into force. So this act can play an important role. Once we have an effective national instrument for protection of such type of technical traditional knowledge, which is that maybe comes into force. Now the attempt is secondary. The first attempt now we have traditional knowledge digital library. Presently we have, there is a TKDL. This is the knowledge digital library, which is traditional knowledge digital library. So digitalization of the traditional medicinal knowledge. Okay. So these basically this type of medicinal knowledge available in the public domain in the form of the existing literature related to codified system of either it is from Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha, or from Yoga. Okay, so these are the traditional medicinal knowledge which is already available in the public domain in the form of form of existing literature, whatever may be, that is related to the codified system. Okay, codified system of Ayurveda, codified system of Unani, codified system of Siddha, or codified system of Yoga. Okay, so what are the objective actually? So the objective is that to protect the ancient and the traditional knowledge of the country from exploitation through biopiracy, one thing, and unethical patents. So protection from the two things, one is biopiracy, first thing, and unethical patents. So protect the ancient and the traditional knowledge of the country from this type of exploitations, new type of exploitations, and through the two paths, mainly basically to stop biopiracy and to stop the unethical patents. Now access to the around 3,30,000, about 3,30,000 traditional medicinal formula, which is available to 10 patent office in the patent compatible format in 5 international language. So it is that around 3,30,000. Those are all the medicinal formulas, traditional medicinal formulations, and available in 10 patent office it is available, and in 5 international language it is available. Okay. So all the name here are that EPO, USPTO, okay, IP in Australia, IPO, DPMA in German, Chile, and Malaysia. Okay. Now effective mechanism for defensive protection, as we talk about first, the defensive protection, that facilitating the prior art search, first to facilitating the prior art search, and then bridging the language barrier. These are the two things. So first to facilitating the prior art search, this is the first thing, and second is then bridge the language barrier between the two countries or two communities. Okay. So has the potential of misuse by unauthorized access to informations. So that type of information has the potentiality of being misused by any type of unauthorized access. Okay, unauthorized access of informations. Okay. So what are the contribution to the local community? So contribution of the local community and the holders of other codified or non-codified and undisclosed knowledge, if not protected. Okay, so contribution of the local community and holders of the other codified, non-codified, or undisclosed, any undisclosed knowledge that are not protected under the traditional knowledge digital library, that is TKDL. Okay, so maybe this outcome with a misappropriation. So TKDL has the target to stop that type of misappropriation or misuse of that type of knowledge. Okay, so that is actually that talking about the protections. Okay, now we have a national policy, that is intellectual property right policy. We have a national intellectual property right policy which is relevantly updated in the in the time of May 2016. It is updated. This is the National Intellectual Property Right Policy. So, what is the ambit of the Traditional Knowledge Digital Library, which is talking about TKDL. So, the ambit of Traditional Knowledge Digital Library should also be expanded to include the other fields besides Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani. We have so many fields besides these three things, Ayurveda, Yoga or Unani. So, this should be expanded to include all the other field which is besides Ayurveda, Yoga and Unani. So, and second thing is that the public research institute, whatever it may be, public research institute should be allowed access to TKDL, for further their research and of the development. Okay. So, while the possibility of using of this type of digital library for further research and development by any private sector may also be explored. So, if we want to explore those things to the private sector for any updated research and development, in that case we have to provide the necessary safeguards that are in place to prevent the misappropriation. If public research institution is dealing with that type of knowledge for their research and development, and side by side if we allow any private sector to get involved into the research and development process of that type of knowledge, in that case we have to provide a necessary safeguard that are in the place to prevent the misappropriation. Any type of misappropriation can be prevented which may be occurred by any private organizations. Okay. So, documents oral traditional knowledge taking care that the integrity of the said integrity of any type of knowledge is preserved, and the traditional ways of life of communities are not compromised. So, what is the line actually? So, you have to document the oral traditional knowledge. This is a one way, and you have to take care of the thing that knowledge is preserved, and parallelly side by side the traditional way of life. We must preserve the traditional way of life of the communities, and the in no way we are not traditional ways of life of the community are not compromised. Okay. So, the knowledge is preserved in one thing, and that is maintaining traditional way of life of the community, other things, and the traditional way of life of the communities are not compromised. That is also an important thing. Okay. Now, to promote India's rich heritage of the traditional knowledge with an effective involvement and the participations of the holders of such type of knowledge. Okay. So, traditional knowledge holders will be provided necessary support and incentive for furthering that type of knowledge and knowledge system that they have nurtured from the start of our civilizations, from the starting point of our civilizations. Okay. So, traditional knowledge holders will be provided that they have to provide the necessary support, and they have to provide the incentives for the furthering the knowledge system, because they can further the knowledge, and that they are already nurtured. They have already nurtured this type of knowledge from the start of our civilization, from the dawn of our civilizations, or from the start of our civilizations. Okay. So, from that viewpoint, TKDL, that is Traditional Knowledge Digital Library, this is a good tools. Okay. In the first study you can say this is a good tools. Okay. This is good tools for providing a defensive protections. Okay. Defensive protection, but on another way it has in a separate way it has limitations. Okay. A limitation that its limitation in providing, it cannot be provide a holistic protection to different form of traditional knowledge. So, TKDL is a good form, TKDL is a good tool, but if we are talking about the holistic protection of the different forms of the traditional knowledge, in that case it is a problem with the TKDL, it is a problem with the traditional digital library. Okay. So, traditional knowledge can be protected. Okay, it can be protected by domestic measures. This is by domestic measures, and someone says that it is only possible by domestic measures. Okay, so due to its because any type of traditional knowledge is widespread, it is widespread in nature. So widespread in nature, leading, and that widespreadness leading to transboundary misappropriations. Okay, so any type of traditional knowledge cannot be protected by domestic measures only, due to its widespread nature, leading to transboundary misappropriations. That is a point actually. Then the international legal instrument, if we think about international legal instrument, is therefore a prerequisite. Okay, so what we need for stronger protection of all time of traditional knowledge, we need a international legal instrument which can protect all forms of traditional knowledge. Okay, so international legal instrument is therefore a prerequisite to provide a stronger protection to all forms of traditional knowledge available with us or available with our community. Okay, so an international legal instrument would require the member state to implement the provision of the treaty at that national level by providing positive protections, and thus if you provide positive protection, thus safeguard or protecting the traditional knowledge for the future generations. So every international legal instrument would require a member states. Okay, so every member states have the power to implement the provision of the treaty at national level. Okay, so at national level, and that type of provision of that treaty provide a positive protection, and also safeguarding or protecting all types of traditional knowledge for the uses of the future or for the future generations. Okay, now what is the theme line actually? So at this position we need a comprehensive international legal instrument. This is the theme point, that we need a comprehensive international legal instrument. Someone is saying this is an urgent requirement. Someone is saying this is an urgent requirement for if we have if we want a holistic protection of the all kinds of traditional knowledge, a holistic protection of all kinds of traditional knowledge, then at best this time we needed a comprehensive international legal instrument. Okay, which is an urgent requirement. It is said by many one. So national we have a national international intellectual property rights, but as the traditional knowledge is normally it is widespread in nature, and it is a characteristics of transboundary misappropriations, and so it's need a stronger protection to protect the all types of traditional knowledge for the future. So and to safeguard all these things for the future generation, we need a comprehensive international legal instrument which only can provide a holistic protection to all our traditional knowledge. Okay, so this is all about the protecting the traditional knowledge through the IPR, international intellectual property right, and through a comprehensive international legal instrument. Okay.